lo ya sa ya cha ya bi sha ya la ya so ya wa ya ne me ya zi ya de je re se che ya me ya je ya be ya wo ya mo ya ya me ya Kaya ye yen ge yen bi ya zu ye ye ya zu ya go ya ya ba lo ya ya sa ya cha ya ye bi sha ya la ya so ya wa ya ye de me ye zi ye de ye ye re ye se che ye me ye je ye be ye wo ye bo ye ja ye be ye ya de ye bo ye ma ye le ye jo ye ze ye sa ye be ye na ka ye ge ye be ye zo ye ye zo ye ma ye ba sa yin cha ya bi sha ya la ya so ya wa ya de ya ba ya de ya za ya bi la ya ma ya re ya ba ya je ya da ya so ya ni ga ya me ya de ya jo ya la Kaya ya di ya je ya bo ya ko ya ne je ya so ya de ko ya so ya do ya je ya ko ya do ya ze ya de ya so ba ya ne ya za ya be ya la ya ma ya re ya bo ya je lo ya ya zo ye ye ga ra ye be ye me ye de ye jo ya ya la ma ya ye de je ye bo ye go ya ne ye je ya zo ya de cho ya ya da ya de ya mo ya go ya do ya ze ya de ya zo ba ya de ya za ya be ya la ya ma ya re ya bo ya che la ya zo ya nye ga ra ya be ya me ya de ya jo ya la ga ya de ya je bo ya go ya ne je ya zo ya de cha yen jo ye nye pa ya ba ra ya de ye ba ra ye jo ya ma ya sa ye je ye me she ye ra ya ba ye ra ye ji ye me Geshe Vada Mende Neve Janata Timba Geshe Paso Sojane Dashi Denje Dende Dele Aisha Aisha Boshi Shoshi Medan Rira Leje Nyende Jembande Isanje Shende Mende Pawai Choke Nanda Shila Shabara Aisha Ye Daya Ngurara Nenda Lakanaya Daya Me Soje Chonam Lai Janjo Bandon Dani Janjo Je Dagi Chuju Jibe Chonam Je Chonam Benje Sanje Chonam
Sanje
Chonam Chonam Lai Janjo Bandon Dani Janjo Dagi Chuju Jibe Chonam Je Chonam Benje Sanje Chonam
Sanje
Chonam Soje Chonam Lai Janjo Bandon Dani Janjo Je Dagi Chuju Jibe
Well, stop going to judge, but in this Sinja Tamji, the Lanama, those Sanja Commercial October, teach it in Tabish sending Nubs and Lenya Ben, Chalusen, which is similar Romans.
I would like to remind all of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate what we call the bodhicitta motivation. That is, in other words, the altruistic motivation seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. So with that kind of altruistic motivation, that we should all engage in this teaching.
That in my sugar my
Allow me to read about a page or so from this great Lamrim text, or the great treatise on the stages of path to enlightenment, volume number 3 in English translation, to give you the blessing of oral transmission.
Yumila Saba Chig number Chiku, Yung so Michu Chero. Yumila Saba Gashi, Law Ponsum, Me Parandino, Yumila Yamakunim, Song Parajibe. Tinda and Ome Shungle Yume me share some be sick down lower to no, Tindino near you, Meva, she, Marmeron, Shindy, Yume me young. Mamero de Mushi Gavata, some Bishero, Sashele, Yisha, Tabanzi, Misho, Shevata. Tiji Minigala, Kevin, Never Somba, you miss on a Mr. G. Governor Rashi, Jovake, Lamba, Taxi, Jivatavanjo, you are so soon, Diva Sixel, show me, you meet you, Zimbo, you meet you, Tawali Sheni. Tio the young teacher over the one over me about you, Tabara Shiba, Tabara Shibato. Tell you, gentlemen, the other consider a city about maybe thought. Goes to the major, then whatever they were your consider a city over a Jubati, and you are seeing Dobamere. No, you never mind the town of Roshi, when you were long, be the top of a tower, July. Only because of Kelang, the sheet, you ship over me to share Kelang. Shebato, Joro, Roshi, you walk along, ball or Tata, I share Roshi, Tini, she, Shebo. Do no matter soon, you but some of the Shiba, so Masunso. Butapali, Talijan, you shower, the major shower, the Dani. Kashiran Shinji, you was Jivatashi, do do, so shadow. That did the Hindu to Kersa. Tangan to Naravalu in the church, Yabama, Mevama, Sebaja, what he can't take Chevat. Puzzle, Yaman Rashi, Yogri, Yaman Megri, you make him my puzzle, ene ti phungsmo tan yo maris ta ti khong de zön do le khasa rangshi me ba ni lo na rangshi de la rab zhong jurs cheda rangshi ye ba mai na in rangshi me ba de yo rangshi me ba mai na rangshi ye ba de go res ti phasla ye ba me ba phasla phungsmu yo maris pe ngan de dog chen re ba ta 시점도 강사 임바도 많이 봐 가롱지 차거라 봐 강사 임바 많이 봐 많이 사 디파르야 강사 이민이가 그게 부수요 말아 봐 어디 찍바래서 거기 거기 이민이가 켈링 게 되가도 어디 있어
Geshe read from the bottom of page 146 where you find a statement beginning with as Nagarjuna's refutation of objections say. And then he read up to page 148, right on the top, where there is a quote from Buddha Palita's commentary on the fundamental treatise. Just to recapitulate our context here, some of the early Tibetan, scholars, they asserted that things are neither existent nor non-existent. Okay, that's their position. Things are neither existent nor non-existent. And here we say that, well, that's not feasible at all. Either things have to be existent or they don't exist at all. There is no third possibility, right? Either something exists or something doesn't exist. There is no other way of existence. Either it is, it does, it doesn't. Okay, there is no third, possibility in this, case. So if either one has to make a stance that, what, I assert that things exist intrinsically, okay, or somebody should say, I assert that things do not exist intrinsically. Those are the only two possibilities of existence. There is no third way around, like kind of exists, kind of not exist. It's like, it's neither existent nor existent. It's like kind of here and there, and you're nowhere, So that is not a feasible position. And Geshe gives this example of, say, for example, we can categorize everything that exists into like persons or non-persons. I know in English non-person doesn't sound eloquent, but here, right? So everything that exists either has to be persons or non-persons. But there is no third possibility. So just like that, either things exist intrinsically. Right? If we assert that things exist intrinsically, what we are refuting is the opposite, right? The lack of intrinsic existence or the absence of intrinsic existence. But if you take the opposite position that things do not exist intrinsically, then what you are refuting is the intrinsic existence, right? So those are the two possibilities.
Chewa kazi shinin toba juya tani yo maris, ta jing maris iti yan diya maris, pasla jing wen pa gan ji yima zui zhuya jiya mewa shagu waro ma, sheta toba zan seya mewa shagu waro si wata.
So that's basically what the Nagarjuna's refutation of objections says. First we have to make sure what the ways in which anything could exist, right, or not, right? So there are only two possibilities. If we are not sure about that, if we don't agree with that, then our debate becomes endless, debate like you kind of exist, a little bit not exist, then here exist, then there don't exist, then, there's no way to really resolve the issue because, we are holding so many paradoxical, standpoints, and that becomes like an endless, debate. So we have to make sure, the two ways that, something could exist. Either it exists or it doesn't exist. There is no third possibility. Once we agree with that, now we can debate, right? Do you assert something exists intrinsically, or do you think something does not exist intrinsically, right? Then we can debate about that.
yume mime yang ma mirikdi mushiga desumbu sheros sheda dan omeshon ene yesha tawa mesha sheba kebe ul dewa bja seaji yora wadi tseng chuni ene keling na 저는 유매매매 나와야 말했어. 다르와. 예와 뭐 랍지메나. 이 유매매매 뭐시아다 랍쇼 뭐 지바라스. 무시가 가야 지바라와. 저는 다다시 렌자다 랍쇼 말라와.
No, sir. So a lot of these debates really, they come from, certain expressions that we find in the Madhyamika text or the Middle View treatises or texts. For example, there is a mention of it exists. What does it mean? It exists. And one of the interpretations is it exists means it exists intrinsically. So that's the view of permanence, right? And then sometimes we come across expressions that it does not exist. So what does that mean? So it means that it does not exist at all, so which is the view of nihilism, right? Those are the two extremes that we need to avoid. And there is no third way of existence or possibility, right? Either it is one of those or, you can't go about and make a combo, some kind of a view here, right? No, I position something does not exist, but something exists in somewhere. You can't, there is no such option left.
这这些嘞，有些小大部分没小，起码这里有没你个嘞，根本那个没小我，先说吧，有没长了没时间，我不那么让心机，出不开浪吧啦，大街当家少送的，出些嘞，觉得有把没事，有时候大把意思，让心有把当那大把意思，但是没把当那切把当意思什么东西，现在有把没把意思我嘛是吧？我的刚才的好么个先。 都是那边当些他就让些有当那当住，在那没把当那切当住都是，因为让些有没你干嘛是啦那他这个嘛的是让些没把你干嘛个就要嘛是吧？我听家人没这个，现在有没长的有把没把是那个嘛是什么地方？
So in the middle of page 147, we have a quote from Arya Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise of Mula Madhyamika, right? And it reads, to say it exists is a conception of permanence. To say it does not exist is a view of annihilation. Hence, the learned should not dwell in either existence or non-existence, right? Unquote. And so when we come across such expressions like it exists or it doesn't exist, what do they really mean? We are not simply talking in a, very conventional sense of like, does something exist or not? We are talking at a different level. When it says, does it exist, means, does it exist intrinsically or truly or inherently, right? And if somebody thinks that things do exist intrinsically, then that kind of position, the view, is what we call the view of permanence. So we have fallen on one of the extremes. But when we say it does not exist, it's what it really, it really means is that things don't exist at all, right? Remember we talked about the analysis, ultimate kind of analysis. We try to find how things exist, and at the end of the analysis we don't find them, and now we conclude like, oh, so I have been caught up in illusion. Really, things don't exist at all, So, and now that is a nihilist position. When we deny the existence of everything, now that becomes the annihilist position or the nihilist position. So the learned or the wise, need to avoid or be free of those two extreme positions in order to understand, right, the ultimate nature of reality or phenomena. Okay, and this is what really is pretty much explained by Arya Chandrakriti's clear word commentary. What does exist or doesn't exist mean? Then Chandrakriti explains, what these statements really mean.
我的这当有没有咱小朋友吃些的送下去了，熊哥们有小大半些对吧？熊哥们有没有的怎么我不有没有的到了些呢？听我的，要记住了我不等我不没把到有呢，大把的七八到，跳就是现在的在抗让心机，抗心让心机吧，真的没把没别大。我说他在没什么，真的七八跳就是抗心让心要不这把天呢，让心能多把没别。 那样没把忙的，现在让心你要把你的开朗呗，大把到啊跳完就了。我那边告诉我没让，我不让去开朗呢，他的气的西巴没的些开朗呗，西巴到啊跳完就了是让心出呢，因为这时候他看见扛不起呢，就你也没有杀入是吧？我这 这个呢有些，没把些，我都是找个么的，人心这当个月吧来呢，唐伯有真的没把这样做，唐伯没呢就这样要是吧？这人心超生呢，唐伯有呢有些没些，我得当时看中这样的么就是唐伯有真的行这样做。三把就吃完之后，我第一站听个嘛的是，我第一站讲啥事么？
No, so towards the bottom of page 147, we have that commentary from Chandrakirti, on the Nagarjuna's statement, and also again there's a quote from Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise. The point that's being made here is, if something exists intrinsically, if we were to assert that something exists intrinsically, then it would have to exist forever and forever. That thing which we say is intrinsically existent, it cannot be destroyed, it cannot change into something else. It has to be, what it is forever. Okay? Are you with me? When we conventionally talk about things, right, we can say, hey, I know something exists, now it doesn't exist anymore. Why? Because it's changed, because it just got destroyed, it went out of existence. That's possible, isn't it? Or something that don't exist now, well, that could exist sometime later on, isn't it? Conventionally speaking, new things are produced, old things die out, all these things are possible. But if something exists intrinsically in and of itself, then it has to be like that forever. It cannot be changed, it cannot be destroyed. Okay, so that's why this is the view of permanence. It is what it is. It has to be forever.
我这里觉得，工作看到人性出发线的看这些呢，人性出发线的可能对面，可能速度不要对面出发线是吧？是对面出发呢，那个长的远吧的，长的没法来着是吧？我直接给他用过吧，或者长的没法来用那个。 建议这个没法认识，因为三把车你一件这个没法认识啊，有那现对个是吧？个那所以看了嘛，对不对？人多嘛是吧？我起码都那人些有呢，那我的现在当时叫那个头发有那大把人都去现着那对面人都是吧？他那这你现在给就是我的。 对面人我嘛，个人家有嘛点最多是吧？别的门头老家的个呢，个这几个人的就是我，个嘛有有年的个是吧？但人家之外，他们老几十万的干的，咱们多是吧？这不能他们老几十万当然的呀，这不已经了，这他妈多呀，都咱没有差是吧？我的现在人家之外是看了对面噻，我这当什么做是吧？但这差不多没有那有些对人对面这不这头们都是他可以给我当个对吧？对。
So what does intrinsic existence mean? Rangshingi Yoba in Tibetan, those who are learning Tibetan. Okay, what really it means is that something exists independently, in and of itself, from its own side, under its own right. It has that fixed entity-ness, those who like the ness thing. So that is fixed entity. Yeah? And so if things were to exist in that mode, in that way, then they would have to exist like them forever and ever. They cannot undergo change. We cannot say, hey, circumstances change. Due to causes and conditions, these things change. No. If they do change according to causes and conditions, then that means they are not intrinsically existent, right? Because they depend upon causes and conditions to come into existence. And depending upon causes and conditions, they go out of existence. So which means just the opposite of intrinsic existence, right? So the cause and effect condition, the relationship works for what we call the lack of intrinsic existence. Okay? And so therefore, as Geshe says, if we were to assert that something exists intrinsically, then we have to say it will exist forever and ever, it will not undergo change, it cannot be destroyed, that's how it is. Or we say that, things do exist intrinsically, but at a certain point of time, they could change, and then, then that change means absolute change. If they get out of the existence, forever, they don't exist anymore, they cannot. So that's how we can get caught up with the two extreme views, right? The view of permanence, either they exist forever, or the view of annihilation, if they change, then they are gone forever, So we get caught up in those two extreme positions. But from our standpoint, what we say that things are dependently existent. Things depend on causes and conditions, right? So when new causes and conditions assemble together, new things are produced. Things didn't exist before, right? When some other causes and conditions come together, these things, change or get out of existence, other things come. And all those things are possible because, right, things are not independently existent, intrinsically existent. In the case of like human beings, right, we say maybe the ultimate, our age limit is 100, right? I know, we do know some people live a little bit more than that, good for them, but let's say about 100 is the limit. So what we say is, so many causes and conditions bring us into existence, right? And then as we age, a couple of months to the 1 year, to the 2 year, whatever, there are a lot of changes happening. We are getting matured, but so the continuity is maintained as we go through these changes, isn't it? But if you do assert that human beings exist intrinsically, then if you are 1 year old, that's how you should be forever. You cannot become 2 year old. You just can't. And if you become 2 year old, well, you went out of existence because that 1 year old couldn't be 2 year old. So then it's a nihilist position. Do you see the point here? So that's what we're talking about. So we're on page 148. So as it's very important, for us to remember that we are not talking at the conventional level at this point when they say it does exist or it does not exist, right? We're not talking in a conventional, ordinary sense like, things exist, things don't exist. We are not doing a ultimate analysis of the conventional things here. But we are, talking at the ultimate level. The question is, how do things actually exist? The final mode of the existence of phenomena or things, right? So when we do ultimate analysis, the kind of thing we talked about quite a bit some time ago, right? So what is that thing? What's the identity of the phenomenon, right? What's the self? Under such analysis, we don't find anything, okay? So now if you conclude that things really don't exist at all, right, then we are, annihilating everything that exists. That is a nihilist position. With me? Or if, on the other hand, we assert that, things do exist intrinsically, then we, are on the side of the view of permanence, the eternalist position, as we would say. Okay? So we have to understand at what level we are doing this kind of, the analysis. Otherwise, conventionally, we all know, new things come into existence, old things get out of existence, things exist for a while, then they disintegrate, right? We as human beings, right? There was a time all of us didn't exist. Then we take birth, okay? And then we grow up, right? And then there will be time. Now, right now, we are enduring, we are existing, isn't it? At a certain point of time, we will die. Well, now that's not the end of everything because we know there will be next life, rebirth. Are you with me? So that kind of disintegration and things is feasible, right? When we look within the framework of cause and effect, law of cause and effect, and things like that. And so they said basically, not only the Chandrakirti has explained clearly those statements, it does exist, it does not exist, in his commentary called the Clear Words. But another great Indian master called Buddha Palita, he has talked about the same thing in his commentary. So we just quoted on page 147 right on the top. So the idea, the concept of intrinsic existence, Rangshinji Druba, what it really indicates is what we call teme means lack of interdependence, or the interdependent relationship. If something exists intrinsically, then that thing, whatever it is, it cannot have anything to do with any other phenomenon. It cannot be interdependently existent. Okay, because that is not in the very idea, the notion of intrinsic existence. For example, like, I guess this is a classic example we use in the debate. For example, a pillar over there and a vase. Okay, a pillar and a vase may have nothing to do with each other. Are you with me? If you kind of chop the pillar down or something, the vase is not going to be affected, right? If you just knife the vase and put beautiful flower or whatever, that's not going to do anything to the pillar because these two things have nothing to do with each other. Okay? So if things are intrinsically existent, then we cannot talk about the interconnectedness of the thing and the interdependence among things because whatever happens to one thing, it should not have effect on any other thing. Are you with me? So which means what it precludes is the law of cause and effect relationship. Then we cannot talk about cause and effect relationship. Because in the framework of cause and effect relationship, things are dependent on each other and they affect each other, isn't it? Right? If we want to grow something, if the seeds are good quality, they can produce good results, isn't it? They can germinate better, they can produce fruits, whatever you want. If seeds are kind of crappy seeds, then you get a crappy plants, you know what I mean? Why? Because they have that interdependent relationship. It's unlike the pillar and the vase, right? Pillar and the vase do not have a cause and effect relationship with each other, right? Whereas seeds and the results, they are locked into each other, whatever the quality. So like that, things we usually assert are dependently existent. But if we assert things are intrinsically existent, then we preclude or we negate the cause and effect relationship among things. So Geshe, from his memory, quoted a verse from Chandrakirti's supplement to the Middle Way, Madhyamika Avatar, where it says that, if you assert things exist intrinsically, and then you also say that intrinsically existent things can produce other things, then anything can happen from anything else. So all the bizarre things could happen. So one of the bizarre examples given in the text is, then we have to assert that the brightness produces darkness, with me, the light will, produce the darkness, which is just, an impossible thing, isn't it? Because the light dispels the darkness. It does not cause darkness. But if things exist intrinsically, and intrinsically existent things can produce anything, well, anything can happen, right? And such as the light producing the darkness,
any young taxi caroni drama is any taxi tower taps on your Marisilla. Because you have that on she even you can't chemo to Singela. But the Tanda shade that she did in the Ranchi about the Yavan Kakachim Kajik the Redwa.
No.
But they said that Donuseva. Ranchi Madro Tony Tamamines, Manani, Hiji Pongo, the Hera Parish, but Tony the Gomja, the Tarva Tanichava told you, so Tony double load him in the Tava Tanichava kind of Toya Mesua, Sati Mes Lavna in the Shubumli Sagra, Sagres. Taki Ranchi Meva Des, some to do the Tana, and then Meva Connie, Ranchi Meva Chibashi Dronan, and the Chevash Road was. Atamji yuwa tema mandi cheba karsa dyona yang ane dyona cheta yang di dongwan joros o je cheta rangxin yuwa da yuwa ni cheba je ma do na ya men da da ya men cheta kunyi karuji ma da je ta zhe gap da ne yuwa ma ris ta da gan zu kaji de da in the Ranchi Yavada, Yavani Seva Mashi Kaji Redua. The Kuraji means the Raji Meva Kela, Meva in 10 Mevaton Kaling or
No.
What did it?
No, so. Still on page 148. Now, who are we really kind of debating with at this point, if you ask? Who are our worthy opponents, debate partners, if you will? Now, our debate partners are those or someone who fails to differentiate between existence and intrinsic existence. Because for them, existence equals intrinsic existence, right? Existence and intrinsic existence are synonyms, one and the same thing. Are you with me? Yeah. But as we talked about, they are not one and the same thing. Right? And they also assert the non-existence equals, right? No, sorry, the lack of intrinsic existence, non-intrinsic existence equals to complete non-existence. Okay? Those who have not been able to differentiate between those things, right, then they're caught up in this difficulty. Either they say things are intrinsically existent, then they are caught up in the extreme of permanence or eternalism, isn't it? Because they say, things exist. And what does existence mean? Intrinsic existence. And so by asserting that, holding that view, they are, the implication is they're abandoning the view of emptiness, shunyata. Okay? So when we, abandon the view of emptiness, that is one of the most serious negative karmas you can create, which is called abandoning dharma. Why? Because in order to find nirvana or liberation from samsara, in order to find complete enlightened state, it is a must, right? It's not option. It is a must that we realize the view of emptiness, okay, right? So we say things exist intrinsically, we abandon view of emptiness, then we are creating the negativity of abandoning dharma. It's a serious negativity. Are you with me? And now, on the other hand, they said, okay, no, things don't, okay, now that means things don't exist at all, which means complete annihilation of the things. Now you fall into the extreme of nihilism, isn't it? So that means nothing exists at all. Do as whatever comes to your mind, who cares, really? That's basically they're saying. So then that is a problem too, see? So we get caught up in either of these two extreme views, and so we will not be able to find the way out of samsara. Okay? So it's very important for us to keep in mind that existence does not equal to intrinsic existence. Okay? And non-intrinsic existence does not equal to complete non-existence, because those are different concepts and ideas. Are you with me? Yeah. No.
Riki kete tamche tongpa te, tamche yuwa mayi no, xie tongna ti tse, de loba tawa jo desu. Chigi xue du loba sung churna, mege pa ni xu jang za, deda meba tawa yi, me zang teni xingwang juru, xie tosi. Dire kanchi, rangxi yuwa ta na, eda ta shi de kwa lian zhe zhibu jige, kai lian shogwa, da rangxi yuwa na kwa 지다 린데케 요 사쇼거와 지도고 린데케 렌 장고 지도 로다데레디 세나 닌도 까이게 말고 랑도가 누구요 말와 다짜 메스다나 인 랑도 메바케란데 유데 메바케란데 로다지그라와 세다 메자테니 시마 줄시데다 인 메타 세나 메바타와 가자 타이디 메스라나 렌데 메바타도 주가 메바타인자 인 베가사니 인 메자마 시마 줄시 녀송 제르시고라 어디서 다 거지당을야 딱다다 세대니나 딱다때 차가 주어라 딱다거랑 딱 따와샤데 따다리고디 랑도데 랑렌 콜렌디고 라기 트바이나 인슬라나 그런 이 소저버 디바야 소저파 야야 바티제 랑렌 따라 지바라와 그 상로 땅땅 쳄서 카가레 마기 랑렌 지바타고라 셔도 녀송 제거 말이스라와 다 메스 딴 메스라는 렌데 메바타운데산 이 게들랑도 가가 지야지야 메 샤상 콜록다레사 이 녀송 제거와 셔도 셰다디 제당
So in the middle of page 148, we have a quote from Arya Nagarjuna's fundamental treatise, and I quote, "If they view emptiness in the wrong way, those of limited intelligence will be ruined." Okay, unquote. So in other words, that if we approach the view of emptiness in the wrong way, okay, then that could be very destructive. Okay, and so how could it be? Now, as we have been, having these conversations about the two extreme views here, the view of permanence or eternalism, which means things exist intrinsically. Are you with me? Yeah. Now that somebody can believe or subscribe to this notion that things exist intrinsically, but at the same time, they can engage in, proper actions. Okay, so they say, okay, killing is a negativity, so I'm not going to kill anybody. Okay, stealing is a negativity, I'm not going to steal anything. So they can still follow the law of karma and action, right, being grounded in the view of eternalism. Okay, which means they still have a chance to have a better rebirth by following the law of karma and action. Are you with me? Now, on the other hand, if we deny the conventional existence of everything, we say, really nothing exists at all, everything is an illusion, and I have been doomed, forever, whatever thing. Now that view really is worse than the view of permanence. Why? Now we are not going to believe in the law of karmic action result at all, because we say, do whatever pleases you, because all of these things are baloney, really don't mean anything. And so by creating a lot of negativities, we are paving our way into difficult rebirths and bad rebirths. Are you with me? So of these two extreme views, if we are given only choice, these are the two extreme views, choose one which you like, right? Then we better choose the view of permanence. Are you with me? Still we could create good karma, still we could find good rebirth, because we believe in that. But if we choose the view of nihilism, then we are doomed forever, because then we will create all kinds of negativities and go into bad migrations.
지디야 탐질 고안 데버민데 나니 티지 시다 고본데다 맥스 생기 동반이디 저데 티지 라시미베 돈 동반이 돈 마이너스 다 디즈오다 디 현다진서로 가자 고버데 라시 동에는 디게 비게 속도 달아서 고순 미그도 와세 디게는 고순 미그여데 라시 동마 라시 동전은 매버레도 와스 다 가지레도 와 제 녀버 동반이 ponjo teta pangni chöji pombanji leji 녀버 녀론도 저로스다 이 동이 방에나 쇼붕 레사도 쇼붕 레사나 이 녀도 지고레스 쇼붕 레사 잡첨부 셰어와 지금의 리제 청완레스 리제 청완레 셰양 된 로스나 lumbu khebe nga jeche nga jeche phoe marung dani chen nane bani chidu do she to she sum be she ros o tiemra da in rangshi don kharsa toni rangshi don ba toni ton shag maris o zga to lave na in shubung lesa na in 년도 지를 다 리지트를 녀와 지를 봐 나누이 번 지도 놀라도가 어 쇼붕 래 트네 년도 지를 어디라.
So now At the bottom page 148 and on top page 149, we have a quote from R.A. Nagarjuna's Ratna Avali or Precious Garland to substantiate, which we just talked about. That is, if we abandon the view of non-intrinsic existence, which in other words means emptiness, rather proper view emptiness, then that constitutes the karma or abandoning dharma. Okay? And it's such a serious karma that we could end up in the worst kind of situation of rebirth. We call the unrelenting hell or something in this translation. Okay? We call it Avicii hell, okay? By the Nagarjuna. Because here's the thing, the opponents have a difficulty. They said, what? How can you say things do not exist intrinsically? Because you are contradicting the direct experiences. Forms exist, sound exists, smell exists. So how can you say things don't exist intrinsically? Give me a break, kind of thing, right? So they are kind of screaming. I mean, that doesn't make sense. Okay? So if you say, things do not exist intrinsically, what it really means is they don't exist at all. Are you with me? So that's how they have the difficulty understanding the difference between non-intrinsic existence and the complete non-existence. Okay? But that's not our position, right? We say, yes, we don't deny the existence of form, sound, smell, all of those things. We are basically saying they do not have that intrinsic nature, that fixed nature, that they are talking about. Okay? So that's the quote basically from Nagarjuna's Precious Garland to substantiate the point. So if we abandon the proper view of emptiness, then we might end up in the worst kind of hell.
no nanjor ba kunzo gi dembe mishib deba mishib samji jewa rangshi ma ba to ni ti tongba ni tong ta bi singi ji to ba ni ta yu ta wa minjur te kanshi ta da me wa ji wa ti se na ni ti gi yo ju shi te da ngar ngo bo rangshi mi ma mi pe che ja me ba ni tu to la he so be shu ren nyam da ti ti ke le ge ro rangshi cho se na ene yu ji Gyeltsen cheddar rate was. Or the thought that the Tambokoni in you didn't give a K language or Tambokoni may not you didn't give what the K language. Oh, Tambo the music on Kojak in the Tambo Derman use killing with Laudova. So the Tambo music or Tambo year in the Gyeltsen and the Karan thought on it in it because cheddar cheddar the Ninga Yoravas. The Tambokoni and you didn't give a K language or the man miss Laudova. Kojak. The man did that you ever mean the bias. So the Tambokoni use killing or Jia killing Marsu.
Then again, Tambone saw sure to get the Ranshin to you were killing Miss or
Oh, that Tambokoni, you were killing, but what killing Miss or that. Said that Ranshi to the Yuba in Sinji, young Ranshi men made over the Sinji, Kani Shawara, or did what that did, but that Zan missing it killing in Zara. Tambokoni you didn't buy in the jigs like Marisi. Tambokoni killing Maravas. The man said Tambokoni.
No.
Today you want me to stitch you to the Rava.
No, sir.
Said I cannot edit it, but go over to Gizi to the shepherd that the top point at Nuzin Jukumundu sing. I Tambokon Yuen in Gizi Banjibu Kelan your Maravas. Tambokoni Kelan your Maravas.
That Tango came along again, any detail matter was Chagomar, Chedachogor, Tango and Messico.
Oh, Tambokon Mina in the Rangi Trapsana, young because the Tambo Yuna, you might get you when you do this on in it. Could you done you were connection not that degree? That in the Majibu in Cheddar rate says the Cognition Joameza and Jim in the Miji, but she must some jet in the Yamar Cheddar. Does it tie in the third part of her? No. They wanted the Dakote in Tambokoni, you were killing Miss or that. Ranshi, you were killing Miss or
Tambon and Ranshi,
Tambon Miss. Tambon, you were killing Marisi. Said the girl did the set up for the tower, the young Marasi. Tambo, you didn't jig in Jigus Kelan Vina, in Chonata the Shetan Joa K Tawad Nugor was.
Yes.
Yeah, in the man in the Kela Meza, in the Shede Tawad never Mindus is over. Kuja Nisava, the man that you have Mindu best, Giderva. Jiggy Chebe Shetan Jo this is the Kakaya. Sure, can she was on Kelan your models. The Kelan Meza in Sheda Kade Jugura Simmer. That lineage of Jig Meslan in Shetan Jugura. But she didn't know you tumble you in the Tower do the tumble when Kelan made the Chiva down Jugumindus. Tibble you did the Zahi Lungs are rather good draw. Guzun Tata Major, but then the Shiva Tower. She did the shadow song things. Yama used the Zahil da. Zahil so at Guzita Mazo, Tombo Ranshi, didn't miss Lana and the Chevata could Ranshi to Majashi. Yama Yula, Tanda miss Lana and Sheta song Shasu, Zahil 16 Dua. Guzita Mazo, Shevata Yladua. The Kunsi, put Tombo and Kalango Marisi. When you end up on Jane, then Shetari to Zahil song to us. Not Tombo and any quarter, she did a Jim Kalango Machete, she has a thing what is. Come to go Zahil Judua. Guzita Mazo, then Shevata, so did it. Near the woman Kalam is Sheta in Tawaju Maris.
Then again, woman Kalam mess and Yaman Rangshin, you have a Kalam mess go. Did I look at you?
La.
Woman and Rangshin, you have a Kalam mess at the look at you.
That woman, you didn't have a Jigba Kalang message. Teaching that in the Yama Tamako came along, Jiga Kalang.
I'll jig with the Kalango.
That is team because you have a shit in a Panjingson and Cheda in Zahil Song.
On page 149, there is a question being raised. It's called qualm. And so the opponent is basically saying that, your argument, does not affect us. The argument we made earlier is that if you were to assert things exist intrinsically, and then they were to undergo change, right, then they would have to be completely non-existent, and that would be your problem, okay? And now the opponent is saying, well, that argument doesn't really strike us. Why? Because I don't assert that, I never claim that, things were what called would undergo change or non-existent at a certain point in time, right? I never met that position because I know what Nagarjuna said in the, so they're quite smart, and they come back and tell us, because I know what Nagarjuna has said in, where's that page? In the fundamental treatise, we are on page 149, it says, if you say that what arose before is now non-existent, that entails annihilation. I know that. Nagarjuna said, if you say something exists before, and then if you say it doesn't exist anymore, then that becomes complete annihilation. I understand that. So I never made a claim that things, would undergo change at a certain point of time. So therefore, your argument is not really sitting well with us. That's what the opponent is telling us. Okay. Us means that the Madhyamikans, not really us per se. Okay.
That did that 6 years young you said 6 years, Ninja Bakunzo, Deba Mishiva Zangi, Jeva Ranshima Ton, T. Tombani, Tontambe, Sinichi, Tobani, Tanyus, Minjua, Tanyins, Tao, Don Minjute, said that day 6 years in the Kujo de Mado, Mado, Kujo de Mado said, and it's good that my maybe told Shagusera. But she said, the mother did on the tiny in your Sigmaris. Tiny is you are the Kanji Tata Mevan Joa teeth and the Chigi Yavan Jersey. To the Ngari, you go over Ranshi, Mammy be Chija, Mevan you do Medola, she'll soon be sure Yana said. She said, no, you did June Panjig away, the Tawata Dogger. Not that came on June Casadella in the Kurang, Shedda Tower the Mindusi, that the 6 years the song Hasi were. That the young John no man of it, that's why he longs do but till 6 years do I job you,
No, sir.
but this is that the good of the model citizen, you did think, good of them, but told them my share was some because I tell you, long mercy, now Jirwa. The quite that told them which was Java, who sit on my share of Jagadua.
No, sir.
What is it?
Yes. So then I think the opponent, they still quotes the Chandrakili's clear words that kind of just to substantiate the point. They already quoted the Nagarjuna, right? So your argument, does not affect us because we know what Nagarjuna has said in the fundamental treatise, and we also know what Chandrakili has said in the clear words, commentary. Which is quoted on page 149. I quote, Yogis do not fall to the two extremes if they know that conventional truths, which are produced only by ignorance, lack intrinsic existence. Then know that the emptiness of those has the character of the ultimate. They think, how could something which has now become non-existent have existed then? Since they do not regard earlier things as having had intrinsic nature, they do not think that such later become non-existent. So basically, they are talking about the same thing that, we have never asserted or made a claim that, what existed before would go out of, undergo change or non-existence. If that was the case, if we made that assertion, then your argument would make sense. But we never said that. Okay, and so basically, I think here the opponents, they still are caught up, in their notion of not being able to differentiate between what we call the non-existence and the non-intrinsic existence. Okay, so they're still caught up in their framework position, and so they're going in the loop. In other words, here.
Then the river mind, the Chetawala, Kang Chi, you go on our Kelambagun, Jigde Jambe Begum, Segnashi, Tang, Linus of our Kelan, Chi Meba Memai, Teta Deman, Yuba Mendibi, Cheta, I will tell you that they said she's on.
No.
Cheta, Lozon, Tomoko, and Chikela, and Tiny and Cheta home, she Meva Mago Maris, Tiku, and the young babe to the Joangas, Meva Cheta, home, Marivesi. What young as the Linde Kela, Tene Jul Mela or Marvas, from Tomokoni, and young as the Linde Mes Lavas.
I think a Chong Chu Labing Goro again.
Tata Roncola, Chongagi, Cheta, Tombo, didn't buy Jib Kela, and Cheta, you can make it Tombo, and Cheta Juma, that Tilan Jora, young baby, young as you came in, but Cheta, Maivata, got over young as you came, like this Jula came in like the mind with Tombo when he came in aviation. What did that saved that she's
long. So we are still on page 149 on the bottom part where it reads reply. So what the opponent is saying is, they said, we do understand that if we claim that something exists before and then it does not exist later, then we fall into the position of annihilation or the what called nihilism. But we don't make that claim. Okay, and so then we come back. We, in the sense, Madhya begins, tell them, well, in order to be a nihilist, you don't necessarily have to assert that something exists before, then it doesn't exist at all later on. Okay. Right from the beginning, somebody might deny the existence of something, and that is already a nihilist position. Now, the example given here is called a school of thought called, where is it? Lokayata. Okay, so proponents of this particular school, right from the beginning, they do not assert life before and life after. This is it. Okay. But they are considered nihilists, right? But this school does not say, first we think that life exists, and then later on we change our attitudes. Okay, now they don't exist at all, right? And then now they become nihilists. That's not the point. Right from the very beginning, one of their main, central position is that there is no life after, there is no life before. This is what it is. Okay, so right from the beginning, they deny the existence of life before and after, but they are still considered as a nihilist. Are you with me? Yes.
What the Moon Tata Major, what ten the Shawata, you hear somebody go all around, go tribute, Ranshin Davis, go more, Taji, Domas on US. Tony in this, the Moon Tata said, nearly US, and Tinaban Jig on the Sheda Fungus, today she are Maresi. Ranshin troop into the bad chicks on the. In this was Cheta Lungos, with Takita, Jimmy Red or what they lar Mato Chil. Chetan, the Muzuta say, Gumuya, she didn't punch you on the Cheta Lungri, Mares, 让心这把开了，倘不让心这把，我是开了，现在把给经济的就把开了呢。他现在弄个，快经济你知道嘛是吧？我对那个嘛就是，现在有的把这个当现在弄什么是？对，那听句话现在弄这个是吧？听句话当不有，对吧？这个开那个是吧？
So at the bottom of page 149, this is the point, the important point that's being made. That conventionally speaking, right, somebody could assert that something exists before, and then at a later point of time, maybe it gets out of existence. Subscribing to that very notion does not make that person to be nihilist. Are you with me? Because conventionally, that happens, isn't it? Something that didn't exist before could come into existence newly, and at a certain point of time, it undergoes change and it gets out of existence, right? And subscribing to that kind of a notion does not simply make somebody a nihilist or fall on the extreme of nihilism. Are you with me? But the point here is, if somebody says that something exists intrinsically in the beginning, and then later on it undergoes change or it gets out of existence, then all the arguments Madhyamikans made before, right, they affect that position. Because if something exists intrinsically, it must exist as such forever, or if it undergoes any change, then it can not exist anymore. Okay, so that is the difference we should understand. Otherwise, we can say that the Prasangika Madhyamikans themselves are nihilists, because Prasangika Madhyamikans conventionally assert, some things that didn't exist before, they newly come into existence. At a certain point of time, they, whacked out of the existence, if you will, right? Prasangika Madhyamikas assert that, but that does not make them a nihilist or anybody a nihilist.
我这个人性的透过的门教的那大胆教的，这点话可以在学课里呢，个唐不出的单子下面呢，大胆来着是吧？
No.
就俺妈有吧，就起码的西边的那现在就写着是，但人性什么呢？俺是这边写的，这边的历经着是，都是马新别的呀，是那大胆写，历经写说呢，历经军写着过，他别叫起码两没啥着是吧？我现在就是，我提头那这是吧？
No, sure.
没有，俺妈有的，你这说这个里啊，现在就是我们的事。
No, sure. So all the arguments that Madhyamikans have made thus far are, embedded in the notion that if somebody asserts that things are intrinsically existent, then what kind of fallacies would come up? Okay, either those things have to exist forever as such, they cannot undergo any change, they cannot be destroyed, or if certain point of time we assert they do change, then they cannot exist anymore. So they are forever non-existent. So those are the fallacies, that come up, with intrinsic existence, position. So to give an example here, as Geshe says, for example, if we talk about a person called Leichin, which is name we wouldn't use in the debate, so, I take the liberty and you can use my name. Okay. So if we assert that Tenzin exists intrinsically, that means Tenzin will never die, so he has eternal life, right? He will exist as such forever and ever, okay? And that view is the view of what? Eternalism or permanence, right? Because how can I exist forever? Now, if we change that, well, at a certain point of time, he will become old and gray hair and whatever change, well, then he can't exist anymore. Why? Intrinsic existence cannot change at all, because as we talked about, intrinsic existence, means there is no interdependent relationship with anything else. It means complete independent fixed entityness. Okay, so that's the issue here. Okay, either Tenzin has to exist forever intrinsically, or if Tenzin change, then he becomes non-existent forever, and that's the end of the storyline. Okay. No.
karsin chetan dogma to jidin dogma to ngama yu simal meva deva zan chetan sigma res doa inji cheta thabi ti ponga me no serva ta ngama yu en simal ba zeba yoba kar jidoa ganga cheta ba res otira cheta thabi ti ponga me serva si ponto marwa ta omabe en rangshi ma to ngane en ti ngama li yu siman jizona cheta dogma res la de ma cheta ti ngama simal jidona cheta ponto marwa rangshi yu na cheta ponto marwa
no
otisa
no. So within the notion or the framework of intrinsic existence, if there is no possibility to assert in terms of time sequence, something exists previously and then something doesn't exist later on. Why? Either something exists forever as such, or if something doesn't exist later on, then it becomes non-existent forever. Okay? Those are the fallacies. But within the notion or the framework of emptiness of intrinsic existence or the lack of intrinsic existence, it is feasible to talk about in the time sequence something exists before and something becomes disintegrated later on. Okay, and so that notion is very feasible. Okay, so that's why we have to understand the comparative difference between those two frameworks of the notions.
Karsa lende mebar debe cheta wata mendrewe tsuni sikse li jeba song this. Rwata tenjo rangshi me sig ta lawore jangben wata cheta tsoge lende thangol me sig rangshi cheba jago marwa. Ashita kwenye cheba mendra karisa na. Deta cheta wane lende dan jikden paru meban dewa la. Oma pane teta mebar oma pane teta rangshi mebar debe. Tanzal chebar yu dos. Chete jangbe ba chedan me islarwa. Oma be kare rangshi me islarma ki lende rangshi me islarma ki lende me lawa marwa. Chete tamje chebar yu re se rangshi me me go mari se jangbe jiwa mari. Ta ngo ma tsu se na lende rangshi me na jangbe sipa re se ripa tongko ro. Ti te pongwe se.
As the Madhyamikins or the middle way philosophers say that things do not exist intrinsically, which includes the law of karma and actions, for the realist position, the materialist, right, what they hear is they don't exist at all. Okay? So now they started to tell the Madhyamikins, you are exactly like the Lokayata who denies the existence of life before and after, There's no difference between you and the Lokayatas. You all deny the existence, right? And the Madhyamikins say, no, wait a minute, don't jump too fast here, right? There's a big difference. Lokayatas, what their position is, conventionally, they do not accept the life before and life after, right? That's just, that's a baloney. This is what it is. There's no life after, there's life before, right? That's conventionally. But what the Madhyamikins, we say is, life after and life before and after does not exist intrinsically, okay? But it does exist conventionally. So there's a big difference between the Madhyamikins' position on that and the Lokayata's position there. Are you with me? But for the realist, it sounds the same. When you say things don't exist intrinsically, what they hear is they don't exist at all. Ding, 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 So you are Lokayata, same here, right? So that's the problem here, okay?
Karsa oma pan ne lende so da tende be gide rangshi me ba malas. O rangshi me sa tende yin za rangshi me la wores. Ta me ba ma jangma me so lende so da tende yin ba me sre la go mar ko tende du mar ba sita me ba de ba. Me ji thadar simjen di jide ngaman de ro ta den siman ro ma to gide she ne me ba mai 유대 like chebar chedis. Jida jangbe me jawa ngai linde so me de me mato we se lawar me jil shenda gide ko marwa. Oma me tendi yin zang rangshi me sigurwa. Jide khagaresa. Khagaresa.
And also there's a big difference in terms of the reasons being used by the Madhyamikins who assert that law of karma and actions do not exist intrinsically, but they do exist. And the Lokayatas who say conventionally they don't exist, life before and after. Because Lokayatas do not accept law of karma result. Okay? They said, people say that, somebody died in the previous life and then born this life and then die here and go. That's, No, I don't believe that. Why? The reason they give is nobody has seen it. I have never seen it. Show it to me. So because I don't see it, so therefore it doesn't exist. I mean, the reason is simple as that. Yeah. But the Madhyamikans, they said law of karma and the results do not exist intrinsically. Why? Because they are dependently a reason. Prati samudpat, the reason. Okay, Tendal in Tibetan. Yeah? Because there are different causes and conditions, they could not exist intrinsically. There's a big difference in the reasons being given. One said, I don't see it, so therefore don't give me the crap here, right? Other says, they don't, they are dependently existent, so therefore they couldn't exist intrinsically. So there's a big difference in the reasons used.
Successfully, there kaji omaman mebar ma cheba meba inde. Kangi chir gyawa da mega le tang cheba po dan dribu dan jigden tamji rangshin yu tong ba ma yin la. Meba ma ta ta jang teta me to sheba sheba yin ba ti chir omam ban meba ma de cheba me do she goa she to ta de ngoba ma zorba de kon ka ya marwa linde rangshin me na meva do res ne jangwe ba jigba res ne zeba shi wo res se ba konzu ta so te ta da tanda yume me konzu cha ga konzu rangshin me me do rangshin yo go re linde do a de gwa dribu dewa de jibu ga dribu dungo yo ya do as ni zo ga me thong ya do ga pe yo ga ga zong ji de rangshin me se me ta jangwe jigba res ne tinde ya ne tenjo ya zeba shi wo res ba
So on page 150, we have a big quote from Chandrakirti's clear words. So basically, what we called the realist or the essentialist. Those are the terms I use: realist, essentialist, the materialist. So for them, things must exist intrinsically. Okay, if you say they don't exist intrinsically, it translates for them that they don't exist at all. Okay, and so comparatively speaking, their position is better than the Lokayadas. Okay, because they believe that things exist. What do you mean? If I do good things happen. If I do bad things happen. I accept all that. So all those things exist intrinsically, So at least, their position accept all the good and bad and all of that. Whereas the Lokayadas, they completely deny, right, the law of karma and actions. They don't believe in doing good and having good, or doing bad and having bad. They said that's just not right because I don't see it. Okay, so there's a big difference between two of those positions. Now when they hear the essentialists or the realists hear the Madhyamikans say that law of karma and action don't exist intrinsically, then they think, oh, you are as bad as the Lokayadas, completely in that group. Now you are saying they don't exist at all. Okay, so they're missing the point here, right? Yes.
Teta mind oma pa ne ten jo ma yin la. Tenjin rewan jung shir jigden de jigden paru la so tanji rashi me wa ma wa she do me wa ta ne tedan jigden tenjin rewan teta me wa ta ne teta tenjin rewan jung yin bi shir rashi ji tong ba ni ji go ne jigden paru la so ngo ba me wa to ba ma yin te wona ji ke ne jigden de ngo bo nam rashi ji me ba me ne ten jigden paru ni de ru wa ta jigden dene parudu do wa matoye jigden der megbe ngobo tan dawe ngobo shenda la ko anda par sheba yinos tere da oma ba jigden de shema ganga rangi me se warwa jangbe ba jigden de rangi chware se warwa de rangi chware shida da jigden ba shido de jigden shema yo mar za yo rangi ke za yo marwa za yo mar si tanda kyo anda ta sa du chware ma de Kyo ngaman yu ni yong de ma res, tari yong sa de chwa res. Ta tanda chwa de de rang hi chwa res wa ba. Is the queen love the ka res ma. O ma ni ganga ten de rang hi me so si. Ja we ba ko rang hi chwa ji de kyo shi ma mi ro de yo me o ji de shi wa ba.
Then came de shanti what in the
Yes. De shanti.
So Kishala is completing his commentary on that big quote from Chandrakirti's clear words. So the difference between the Madhyamikans and the Lokayadas, Lokayadas believe in everything in this life, okay, and they believe that everything in this life exists intrinsically, okay, and they do not believe that this life, came from some other life. They said, this is where it began, and this is where it will end. So they don't believe there is a life after. Okay, so they believe that everything in this life is intrinsically existent, and then when things come to an end, that's the end of the story. So nothing would exist hereafter. Okay, and why? The reason is because this life I see everything, and that's what it is. I don't see the next life. I don't see previous life, so they don't exist. Yeah. Whereas the Madhyamikans are saying that there is a life before, and there is a life here and now, and there is a life after. But all of these things exist, non-intrinsically. Okay? And so why? Because everything is dependently arisen. Everything depends on causes and conditions. Okay? So those are the big reasons and differences between those two schools of thought. So we're going to stop there, and we would like to welcome your questions. The traveling mic is over there. Okay? Let me write down the page number so that I remember this later. 50.
Hi. Hello.
Yes.
Hi. So I missed that part with like that argument about if you don't see rebirths, then it doesn't exist. And what was the response from our side, quote unquote?
Oh, like when the Lokayata said, there is no life after because I don't see it. You mean what's our answer to that? Okay. Korang this again, kyang brain bagi ruwa again. Kyawa chima sengde yo markasana nge thong bin slab ruwa again. Dele yang anju len of the karje go resa. Kyawa chima you dubje ruwa ruwa again.
There's a chona medon and maybe chak mars jambu madu show yungur wata jambe mesa jambe me yudo me sa ja da me mambu yungu mare in so me at chona madon shi so te tong jo ra si da so ne khadu shi na.
So our position to the Lokayatas is, that's not a good reason. Said if you don't see, then things don't exist. Because there's a lot of things you have not seen, but they do exist. There's a lot of places you have never been to and you don't never seen it. There's a lot of people you have never met and but they do exist. So that's not a good reason at all. When you said something doesn't exist because I don't see it, right? So there's a lot of unseen things and they exist. So that's going to be our debate, with them. Any other questions? I hope we have not fried your brain somewhere in this discussion, but my brain is a little bit fried up. Yeah.
Thank you, Geshe, for your teaching today. So the one that you threw in there at the end is that the laws of karma and action don't inherently exist either. So I would just can we discuss how they change and how they are affected by things?
Okay. Penatatan Umabe Sidu Kanlia and a legend said the Rangsing Yoma Labrawagan. So Rangsime can't attend it as La Roa. Says again that Tende imagine that dig that's the castle king, the decision of Tapana legend Sada, the Jordan Jorawagan. But Tende even you change in a coaching usually go. This is already for the Chicana. This is
that taking it to him because Rangi to us the Kala Mato to the level like that.
No.
Said that legend is that Tende said the chick doing Yunga. She put you car is a
no.
So the Queen Gavasha to show her. No, you shouldn't tend money, but Tendi is Rahimatoti, Nozaku, Rahi Matoma, because you couldn't go with it. Haku, that one. Chick took the Vinsu, chick you Gyeltsen, the chick rally or sit the Ra leva the Malibata, she do me Ra leva Maliva Karum Chagra.
So when I this again. Because Rangsing Madu, because legend the Rangsing Madu was the Rangsing Madu in Sa and the Kochik Takas again, Jujus Tigo or what they call a king.
Roshi Motor in any curse of that to call the water synthesis or that. Any pay you gain the so model China, any pay Chawa Legat of Kade today, you go rest. So that the Chawa to 7 to get so. Driven to Yamichi, Kalejanachi, Yunga Yeva, Majana Mea, or today Bezo Chicken, the country chicken, Yungora. She's the 10 days at the Shawara, or the time Robson the day. She's the 10 days time, you yield, you nail 10 days at Chickshe. The thing you were 10 days at the Tusa say at the Shao. When the you say at the UJ, use the Yusha, you'll tell the UJ double you mean the UJ Yungmarwa.
No.
UJ mean the Yungomarwa. No. Said that you the UJ got pushed to Jora. Repart to the Seando. Part to the part to the part of the Suri, the part of Shawara.
No.
But it said that Tended of the child of Tendesigo, do of Tendesigo.
So those who hold the notion that things are intrinsically existent, that means things have to exist in and of itself, independently, and have nothing to do with anything else, right? Because you cannot say that causes and conditions produce it, because then it becomes, it cannot be intrinsically existent, right? But the Madhyamikans say that things don't exist intrinsically, including the law of karma and actions, right? Cause and effect. And so because of that, then let's say, if we want to attain all kinds of realizations, whatever, it depends upon how much effort we put into our practice, right? If you practice well, you will get your result. If you don't make the effort, you're not going to achieve your result. Why? Because there is a cause and effect relationship between your effort, your practice, and the outcome. Okay, and or maybe the better example is, like say, the dependent arising of Pratitya Samutpat has different levels of meaning. The Prasangika Madhyamikans go more with what we call the relativity meaning of the dependent arising. Okay, the cause and effect is true, but the relativity, the sense of that covers every phenomenon. But cause and effect covers a lot of the phenomena, but not everything else. Okay, so what does relativity mean? So if we think in terms of perceptions and objects, right, they have that kind of relative dependence upon each other, right? That objects exist only because of, from the perception point of view. Perception exists because of dependence on the objects. Without each of them, they couldn't exist in and of itself. So that's a relativity. Here's another example. When we talk about that hill and this hill, it's just a relative concept, isn't it? We're standing over this hill, we look at that hill. Now you go over that hill becomes this hill, and this hill becomes that hill, isn't it? The hills didn't change, the perception changed because we changed our perspective, isn't it? Standing here is this hill, and point that hill. Go over there, that becomes this hill, and this becomes that hill, right? So it's a relative, right, to each other. So that's the notion of dependent arising that Prasangika Madhyamikas would emphasize more about. Okay, yeah. Any other questions? If not, we could have a longer lunch break. It works in either way over the phone. Yeah, could you give the mic to Prashant? Yeah. Sure.
Understood correctly, it was said that denying lack of intrinsic existence is amounts to abandoning the Dharma.
Uh-huh.
Now, does that mean that all the other schools below Prasangika Madhyamika who assert intrinsic existence, are they abandoning the Dharma? Is this what you're saying?
Yeah, wonderful. Ta kasar ke pang bai na sa rawa an tongni pang cha gre so ge tongni pang bai na ani chobong ge lesa la rawa ge ta din de che bai na ane uma thank you wa member ge ta kun de jo jing mang bo cha rawa ge tige ta kang ga lo ta chobong ba lesa go ro so ge ta rang sin du ba jing le jo rawa ge chobong ge lesa go so ga so ko tongni ge ta wa pang de rawa so ge
ta thank you lu xia na ta kon de shu lesa la jo rawa
no. Now, from Prasangika Madhyamika's perspective, yes, those who subscribe to intrinsic existence, things like they have, creating the karma of abandoning the Dharma. From Prasangika's perspective, okay, we look at that. The chidang chana ke chobon le chagor masla ya.
Ta chidang look do mazani ya chena ro ra. Ta chidang pu ngu ni din do chen ta chu le sa so cha ra. Ta look so chen ya. So look chen sa ye se mo ra kon ya de so
Geshe says, so that's the usage. It's important for you to always look at what perspective we are looking at things. For Prasangika's point of view, those who subscribe to intrinsic existence, they are abandoning the Dharma. But from their point of view, right, they say, no, we don't. We practice Dharma, and you are the ones who are maybe, abandoning Dharma because you claim things don't exist intrinsically, so therefore they don't exist at all, So from their perspective, they see, maybe problem with the Prasangikas. So,
The same level, this is sale, Karsa. And the Hyoyu Deva Modona, in the short time you go out there, in the Shen, there were Puashi. 那边写的要的，我你们忙不写的，我听我这样，没点不出东西是写的要了他。
Ale ale tempo dursa. Dice de gata uma tenju ba chomo le sangar biche goro. Samse bo dana.
Je ta ko lu ju ya ko de ba is garo.
No le.
Ti je ta kaza da ye ba ke lang ba da shama de yu de ba mo ke lang ba zap khar che se ne shama yu de ba mo do se zap sha ya se ko.
No so.
Khar se ya yu de mo se me ba ta do was. Te kaza da je ba yu se le na ko ne ga ka ya mo se ko lang do ne che de garo ba.
No.
Je te cha ya se ko.
No ale samsam ba gen shama da yung do tempo do ke lang goro wa.
I do samsam with this one. Thank you tang go da.
No so. Here's another example Geshe wants to give. How when we look at the mind-only school of thought, Chitta Martins, how they assert that of three types of phenomena, there is what we call the, other dependent phenomena, Shenwang, and thoroughly established phenomena, Yongdrup, right? And they assert those things exist truly; they are truly existent. And everybody else who deny that, they said you are abandoning dharma. You are creating a lot of negative karma. Okay? So now, if you look from that Chitta Martin position, then the Madhyamikans are. Right, because Madhyamikas don't accept that, because Madhyamika says things are empty of true existence, So from that perspective, then they can allege the Madhyamikans are, creating bad karma here. Okay, so that's why one thing Geshe wants to sort of maybe highlight is, and we try our best to avoid any kind of wrong views and extreme views. But that being said, among the wrong views, if we are going to subscribe to something, whatever, then relatively speaking, it is better to subscribe to the view of intrinsic existence. Why? We still believe in good karma and result in all of those things. We are still going to behave, ethically. So that's a better option in some sense. So you were going to say something else, yeah.
The question is, does that mean that they're going to fall to a Vichy hell or all those low schools?
Oh, I see. Right. That is happening again. Then Oma Tenju Balloon there in our again. Takanje Ranshi Madubuki Tawa Mandogan Samalo ko Karsa again did wada Chubong Lesago in Narawa and the consequent Yawa Tingna that they get Dugres look at color or soda. When it will be never Yawa Tingna to go or Kajo that Chubong lesson again.
The Chubule said that Tingnas and that Yawan Dosi or the Shaya de Rajida, Katusina, Chubul less than Yawan Dogs, that's what that not the deal.
No.
The Western is on Lagara, Techiqueta. The question is not a Cavadium or Shannon Domar.
I mean, from Pasangiga Madhyamika's point of view, yes, but of course Pasangiga Madhyamika say they but they could still purify their karma, in which case they don't have to go. But if they don't, then, good luck. Okay, I think we will stop there today, because we have another Yamantaka commitment teaching session this afternoon at 2. And before we do the dedication prayer, okay, which means for the first time in my life, I have to use this here so that I'm on the right track. Next Sunday is August 12th. It happens to be a chalk day. So right after the teaching, we will do the chalk offering. Okay. So which means, we cannot do the Yamantaka commentary in the afternoon because the chalk goes until 2. Okay, so next Sunday we have the regular teaching in the morning. Right after that, we have the chalk offering. Okay, and the following Sunday, that's why I got this thing out. It's the 19th. We will have both teachings in the morning, the regular, and then we will do the Yamantaka commentary in the afternoon. Are you with me? The 19th we will have both, and then the 26th. Unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, relative things, we can't have Sunday teaching because I have to go to a conference up north that weekend. So I'm doing some presentation. So unfortunately, we missed the teaching. Fortunately, I got to go and speak at a conference. So with me so far, like the announcements? Okay, thank you. So you can share that with, other friends. Okay. Again, that's a much more this horror again. The Sanction is Jig to the Mabche. The Shuma de Jig to Yabache. The Netari you said to the Nats on the door is a young Sunjo Mabche again.
Dembanye me donjo se to se lo to do me ben do ji de ja de ba la ra ya ja da ga wa den de de tu be be de ja 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 ni mo ji be ja la je nam do zu de song je de nam je ji ji nyam do je de be ban de la me ja lo zo wa de ju de je be ge ra de de ja da do ge de be song je je so wa de ni ne lo so je de be be de je ni ma nga ye ra de je de be je ge me se to wa de ga la je de be zo ko de je be
yang du so no pe tu yor chon Puja da se je be te je bo te be ra je ja wa se je je te de de de
zhang jia ba de je je zang bom je
me je tang zo je
tu ju le tang je den be jian zhe je je da zhe ba wo jin bo so wa de ju ge yu de gu zo be me nie lo wo le ji wa na be zhen de ne ran jia je be de za de ge de go de je be de je do ran je wo jia de je ge wa ye de je ne de sam de de da ne jia ya de me jian zhe ye yang zhe de me zhe me nie je je ge wa mo ba na zo xi xie de ju zo le wa je la je be song song bu zha de be de lam de ju nya ju de nya nya ju lo bu ra de be ma nge re be ba su zo re be nam jia da da ye du de je be cha wa zhong ge ju je jia bo nyu jia ju lo sa yi ra da be de xi le zi de yin jia bo de zhe ba ye ge ge yi wang zhe be ba de ba ma ren ge wang yin ba da da go ju ba gong la ye ge zi san ba nam da ra zo ba lo sa jin de zi je be ma ze le ba xi be xi bo nyu jia ju ju so lu wa me be jin de da ju nie me jia de jia da jia la san ta be 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 ye mo be zhen zhe de la nian zhuai xue.
Okay, English. O peerless saver.
O Deepamkara as well as Father Tsongkhapa, clear appears here today to grant auspiciousness on the great path leading to the heart of enlightenment, each traversed by means of the perfect threefold discipline, and have enhanced ever higher their realizations of the enlightened qualities. O glorious Guru, we are supplication at your feet. Pray return gloriously to propagate the teaching of Lobsang by tying well the sash of monastic disciplinary precepts and generating the altruistic intention to free all beings engaged in the tantric yogas of the two stages. Think of the unbearable pain of the sentient beings who are enveloped in the forces of 5 degenerations, and to open wide the lotus grove of the Buddha's teaching, may our reincarnation appear soon as a source of merit for us. O infinite Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you're the embodiment of uncontaminated, immutable, great bliss. Kindly pour in us now your blessings, rains of nectar from the great clouds of your pervasive, pure, right wisdom and compassion to eliminate our distress. We pray to you, the incomparable great hero, who has perfectly realized within this mind the threefold ethics of pure essence of the teaching. He who has raised the parasol of Dharma in hundreds of directions. Your body is a sun of all wonderful qualities, but all will sadness and its solitary peace. Ye have committed before infinite Buddhas to work for Dharma and sentient beings. You cannot have given up your commitment. However, your presence depends on the fortunes of disciples, for the power dependent arising is inconceivable. Please reincarnate soon as a new light of Dharma, out of your compassion that never abandons us. Please return soon as a supreme spiritual guide, a treasure house of the immense teaching of Buddha, a voice that eloquently elucidates the teaching that suits individuals' dispositions and capacities. Please return soon as Great Dharma King will smashing into pieces a mountain of misguided teachings and views through the power of your thunderbolt lightning of the three reasonings. Please return soon just like your previous self, an expert in the 5 major sciences of Buddhism, whose eloquent words and articulation of the teaching captivate the hearts of all the scholars and activate deep appreciation in pure enthusiastic minds. Please return soon as spiritual guide, endowed with complete knowledge, kindness, and dedication in regards to the perfect view, meditation, and conduct, one who facilitates the opening of the blossom lotus, that is the golden teaching of Tsongkhapa. By the power of 3 infallible jewels, by the power dependent arising of unchanging emptiness, by the truth of our pure thoughts and devotion, may all our aspirations be spontaneously fulfilled.
thang lâm đương chốn hiện tại hiện tiền ban truyền phước nhủ, thênh thang đạo lộ trực chỉ chân tâm kiến tánh đẳng giác. Ngài đã siêu vượt do nghiêm túc giữ ba tạng giới luật, rồi lại phát huy bay bổng tuyệt vời bồ đề hạnh chứng. Tôn sư quang vinh tứ chúng thỉnh cầu ngó sen lễ lại, xin mau trở lại quang huy truyền bá giáo pháp lô sang, bằng sự thắt chặt đai giới nghiêm minh thiền môn tự viện, rồi lại khởi tâm từ bi đại nguyện giải thoát chúng sanh, tin chuyên hành trì du già mật định nhị phần chứng đắc. Xin luôn thương tưởng thống khổ bất kham ba cõi hữu tình, thường bị bao phảo trao đảo khôn nguôi lẫn lục ngũ trược, đưa tay rộng mở bát ngát vườn sen giáo lý Phật Đà. Xin mau tái sanh nhanh chóng hiện hành phước nguồn tứ chúng. Nam mô vô biên chư Phật chư Bồ Tát, các ngài thị hiện bát ngát báu thân của chân đại lạc bất biến trong ngần. Xin trải từ tâm ân cần phù hộ, mưa thánh thủy từ mây đại độ, đủ hệ bi tịnh vô rạng ngời, tận diệt thống khổ tức thời. Niệm danh ngài bậc đại hùng vô sánh, đã hoàn toàn chứng pháp tánh nơi tâm. Ba tạng giới luật cốt tùy yên thâm, của đại thừa Như Lai truyền giáo. Ngài nâng cao lộng vòng pháp bảo, trăm hướng vươn lan tỏa muôn phương. Báu thân ngài chói nhòa phẩm hạnh, sao bỗng nhiên nhập cảnh biết chi. Ngài từng trước Phật thệ nghi, hứa luôn hoằng pháp làm vì độ sanh. Nay ngày hạn không đành bỏ nguyện, tùy phước đệ tử mà ngài hiện thế. Lý nhân duyên chẳng thể nghĩ bàn, xin mau hóa sanh thành ánh đạo vàng. Từ bi mãi chẳng bỏ đàn bơ vơ, xin mau trở lại là đại đạo sư. Như kho tàng chứa kinh thư vô lượng, lời tuyên giảng soi đường pháp bảo, khế căn cơ thiện xảo độ sanh. Xin mau trở lại là đại pháp vương, lừng danh kim cổ mười phương tán đồng, phá tan núi mị pháp lồng tà kín, tam đoạn luật xét nghiến sấm vang. Xin mau trở lại như thân đời trước, đắc ngũ minh kiến thức uyên thâm, biện tài vô ngại lý giải pháp âm, học giả khẩu phục hằng tâm, thiện giả cảm nhận hồng ân nước lòng. Xin mau trở lại là bậc đạo sư, thiên thư thông thái mẫn từ tận tâm, chánh kiến định mạng chuyên cần, sen hé nhụy hương lân pháp đàn, của tông khách ba ý ngọc lời vàng. Do thần lực tam bảo liên ứng, do thần lực duyên khởi tương ưng, với tánh không bất nhị bất trùng, do tâm lực chí thành cùng kính ngưỡng. Xin cho sở nguyện chúng đệ tử được tức thời viên mãn.
Jere sewa dinzi janzo ye chambe sinde wa den yoro ye no ye ngore mena lai gana ya da ya ye me